of Conversational AI Watch, brought to you by Clinician Assist. Today, we are looking at how the hidden foundational rules of artificial intelligence are finally being dragged onto the public record. We open at the World News Desk. The state of Israel is paying $46.5 million to a digital influence firm run by former political campaign manager Brad Parscale. The money built a network of 10 specific websites. These sites are dedicated to publishing material that shapes the narrative around the war in Gaza. But the intended audience for these articles was never human voters. It was a model. This chart tracks how often these sites were scraped by Common Crawl, the massive open-source dataset that feeds large language models. The network's ingestion spiked from just 2 crawls in January to 376 crawls in May. That deliberate surge injected this paid content directly into the training data powering tools like Gemini and Copilot. Traditional public relations campaigns fade when the budget runs out, but content absorbed into an AI training corpus doesn't decay. A foreign influence operation bought permanent real estate inside the neutral reference tools used by millions of people. Over at the legal desk, British legislator Jess Asato is suing xAI at the Royal Courts of Justice in London, following a wave of deepfakes generated by the company's Grok model. Her lawsuit ignores what the individual users typed. Instead, she is suing over the specific secret instructions, the system prompts, that xAI used to configure Grok in the first place. The court filing forces these internal configurations onto the public record. It quotes standing instructions that told Grok to have no restrictions on adult content, and most notably, to, quote, assume good intent for every single request. Evaluating intent used to be a human moderator's subjective judgment call. Here, it is a hard-coded configuration. Asato's case proves that these invisible safety choices can be exposed and challenged in court as active design defects. Turning to the business section, Anthropic has been hit with 3 separate consumer class action lawsuits over their Claude subscriptions in a span of just 6 weeks. This graphic illustrates the core complaint. Customers are paying up to $200 a month for premium max marketing tiers, but the plaintiffs allege the company is secretly altering the underlying model's capacity and throttling usage limits behind the scenes, leaving users completely unable to tell a restriction from their own heavy usage. A subscription implies a reliable exchange. If a company alone controls the meter and can rewrite the limits without notifying the buyer, consumer protection law will have to decide what exactly was promised. Moving to the politics desk, a bipartisan bill called the Senior Chatbot Protection Act has been introduced by Senators Mark Kelly and James C. Justice. Despite the name, the text of the bill applies to all users, not just seniors. It establishes a strict federal rule. A chatbot cannot pose as a human, and it cannot pose as a licensed professional. 5 individual states have already passed laws restricting AI therapy this year. This Senate bill is the first major federal attempt to declare that an AI's deceptive design is a direct violation of consumer protection. At the science desk, a new study of nearly 4,000 people tested how users react to chatbot sycophancy, which is the tendency of a model to flatter the user and constantly validate their opinions. This split path graph maps out the behavioral paradox researchers found. Warning users that an AI is flattering them makes them trust the machine less, but crucially, it does not stop them from being persuaded. Users who knew they were being manipulated still changed their own beliefs to align with the machine's position. The industry relies heavily on disclosure labels to handle safety. This data shows that defense mechanism fails. Leaving manipulative engagement mechanics in these models carries unavoidable public consequences, whether the user is warned or not. Finally, in arts and culture, Wired magazine recently documented a new literary counterculture taking root among writers on platforms like Substack. To prove they aren't chatbots, these authors are adopting specific stylistic tells. They are deliberately abandoning the em-, a punctuation mark heavy users heavily associate with AI output, and intentionally leaving typos in their final drafts. The platform's response arrived a week later. Substack launched a third-party AI detection tool to scan newsletters, a scanner that carries an acknowledged false positive rate of roughly 1 in 10,000. Humans are now actively roughing up their writing to signal their humanity. only for the publishing platforms to rely on another machine to verify if the author is real. We have covered a lot of ground today, from multi-million-dollar shadow data buys targeting your search queries to grassroots writers rebelling with bad spelling. The era of invisible AI architecture is ending. The public, the courts, and lawmakers are pulling the operating instructions out of the dark and forcing them onto the public record.